So in 73, we decided to set up a resource center to make the materials we hoarded available to the public. Scores, about 20 people got together as the initiators, including Oda himself and others who are quite variety of people, mostly from movement and journalists. But basically, myself, Kitazawa Yoko, Tsurumi Yoshiyuki were the main persons to push it through. But Kaji Etsuko was with us from the beginning in preparing and producing Ampo. He was a Christian belonging to Japan YWCA, and she was sent to America for study. And after she came back, she was given 1 year sort of free time to get sort of readjusted to the Japanese situation. And then she joined Beheren. And when we started Ampo, she was with us and from the beginning. Actually, one important thing is that I got in touch with Yamada Akira, known as Yamakawa Akio. He was working for Japan Press, the Communist Party news agency, and he was the cap of the party cell. And he was the one who actually expelled me. There was a very strange kind of purge in the party in the 70s called New Opportunism. The nature of it is unclear, but he was expelled. He wasn't expelled. He was questioned. He was put to examination away from his family for days. Then usually one is expelled, but in his case, he actually, because he is a very well-known writer, journalist, theoretician, etc. in the party. So he left the party. I heard that, and so I went to his house and asked to join us, and he decided to join us. I didn't mention the past. So in August 73, it was a very, very hot day. Yamada and me went about one agency after another to find a place. That was when we were roaming in the Tokyo street. Kim Dae-jun was being kidnapped the same day. Kim Dae-jun was kidnapped from a hotel in Tokyo. But anyway, we got a very small room in Riki apartment. Riki is a acronym of Rikidozan, a wrestler, a professional wrestler, very popular among the people in that period who had died. But the widowed wife was keeping a sort of estate, Riki apartment. And there's a room half this size. So we secured it. So that's how we started to pack with one full-time member, paid Komoto, who was paid 30,000 yen, very low, half the starting pay of salaried young men. And Kaji carried some money in a plastic bag. That's how we started. We didn't have money. We raised some money and so made some fun. Park started that way by selling our information. Several of us pulled newspapers and pamphlets from the pile and picked up important items and made a 5-line summary and called it Park Index and sold it. It's a weekly operation, and so we are very busy to anybody, but basically the subscribers were journalists. And also, most of us were writers, and so we wrote about international affairs and Asian situation, etc., for established journals, including Soka Gakkai magazine, Ushio, and donated half of the income to Park. So several of us did that. Within 1 year or so, we had enough income to support the small office. And it was too small. And then Kubo, the one who was the first secretary of Beherian, who was the film producer, had an office room in Akasaka, which is a very prestigious place. It's along the Aoyama Street. And he offered us that office without paying the initial charge. So, of course, we had to pay the rent, but it was not very high. So we moved there. And it was how Park actually became a sort of accepted setup. And Yamada, who now used the pen name Yamakawa, he was a professional journalist and he was a party member, and so he was a movement person too. He called himself sentinel of the movement. And so he used his broad connection with active journalists and got information. At that time, it was in 73, and in the early 70s, and 73 was a very important year for the Asians because it was a year of student revolution in Thailand, overthrowing the Tanom Prapat regime. And Japanese Prime Minister Tanaka Kakue went to Indonesia, and there a large anti-Japanese riot in Jakarta. But Japanese journalists, mainstream journalists, were totally unaware of those. So they wanted real information. So they began to come to Park for information. And Yamakawa-san regularly held a sort of briefing session And the small office, it was broader than the former one, but still not a large place, but it was packed by journalists who wanted to have information. And that's how Park could survive, by getting them as a subscriber. And also we began to have columns in their journals. And so at that time, by that time, still journalism was liberal. So when I write an article for intellectual mainstream journal, in most cases my articles are reviewed in the daily paper. So that's still the sort of standard of Japanese journalism, although they were ignorant of what's happening at the people's level in Asian countries. That gap we filled. So that's how the initial phase of Park could survive. Well, I just talked about the first phase of Park. And actually, AMPO still was a very important main kind of operation, keeping the network. And in Japan, the major struggles were still there. Sanrizuka, Minamata. Basically, those two struggles were known. And AMPO was systematically reporting on those. So we were invited to come and talk about those struggles. And we felt quite awkward about it, because we are not representatives. We are just reporting. So we felt that we should do something about it. Otherwise, it's as though we are spokespersons for those struggles. We wanted to define ourselves. We are just a sort of medium. Medium in the strict sense. We are there for the solidarity among the people. People-to-people solidarity. And we are there to facilitate such a thing. And so, but we do so actively. The medium, it's a sort of positive medium, not there to function, but to create new relationship. So that's a sort of period of reflection. And out of it, we decided to publish Japanese magazine, Japanese journal, from the world. We are part of the world, and so it's very strange that world, it's as though the world is outside. But that was Yamakawa's original idea. He wanted to publish such a journal from Japan Press, but he failed because he was expelled. So we took it from him and began to started that magazine with Kaji as the editor. And that played a very good role, because information about struggles in other countries, particularly in the third world countries, were very few. And before we did it, starkly left periodical was there. Information on world revolutionary movement. But that was closed. That played a very important role in talking about Guevara and Latin America, and mostly armed struggle situation. But it was closed and we didn't inherit that. We started on a new basis. So we are the only movement journal reporting about people's struggles overseas. That spread the network nationally inside the country. Before that, we were just a Tokyo-based group, and as PAC, we didn't have any relationship with groups and people in other areas. So the new journal started to create a national network. And that was the basis how we can develop our activities on the movement basis. We covered not only Third World, but also Europe and American. Local branch also was created in several places. And on that basis, we began to promote exchange of visits between movements. From the beginning of AMPO journal, the Philippine situation was tense. It was Marcos coup d'etat, martial law. And we had relations with them. They used AMPO magazine, their underground papers and so on. So we began to develop trans-border solidarity kind of relations. We didn't ourselves function that way. We encouraged to create such relations independently. And particularly with the Philippines, we helped to create JCPC, Japan-Philippines Solidarity Committee. We worked together with other groups to promote such connections. And also exchanged relations with the people with American labor movement, etc. In 83 years. That's the 10th anniversary of AMPO. We wanted to have some occasion, not only to celebrate, but also to promote our idea of creating people-to-people links. And by that time, one of the main involvement of the Japanese capital and government was the Official Development Aid, ODA. And there's much criticism of ODA projects from most Asian countries. Destruction of environment, export of pollution, and helping removal of poor people's community, to strengthen port facilities and so on. So we raised the question of what is ODA, what is aid, and for the 10th anniversary of AMPO, we decided to have an occasion focusing on ODA, but not just ODA issue, but to critically review the relationship between Japan and the rest of Asia. Because ODA was just this sort of most conspicuous expression of that unequal relationship. So in 83, in December, we had a 3-day conference of solidarity in women's center in suburb of Tokyo. That turned out to be a very productive conference, perhaps the best one I have ever had. I think about 100 people came, and 3 days we discussed, and we invited people from other countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and others. The interesting point of that conference, why was it so exciting? Was that the people who came, most of them met each other for the first time. Because by that time, PAC has extended its relations with different quarters of movement and society and different professions. PAC knew them, but they didn't know each other. But at that conference, they came to know each other, and it was exciting. That was a sort of a consolidation of the previous efforts of PAC, and particularly concrete cases of, for instance, the pollution in Thailand or export of dangerous process of steel making to the Philippines. Those we had links with people who are doing those things, and we also had strong ties with the left labor movement. As for labor, there's Catholic labor movement, which left labor activists didn't know at all, even the presence, but they came. It's a sort of joy of encountering other people, finding that they have the same basis. And that was the beginning of the path to PP21. In order to prepare that, PAC asked friendly organizations to come together to jointly hold that seminar, that conference. And about 20, 30 groups met several times as the committee to hold that. Although that was the anniversary of AMPO, but we didn't mention it. That's our affair. And so that's how came to a new stage of development. On the basis of discussion at the working committee, I presented the draft of the keynote, and I made a keynote speech, and the thought, ideology of aid, the title. The ideology of aid presupposes powerless people. If the powerless people become strong, then you have to fight against them. So that's the basis of the ideology of aid. So the statement begin with Asian friends say we don't need aid, but Japanese business say you need aid. It's not the exact quotation, but that kind of beginning is there. So we need to create a different type of relations between us. Such a solidarity, the people-to-people solidarity, wherein the existing unequal relationship should be fought against and should be changed. It's not just friendship, but collaboration in order to overcome the unequal relationship itself. So that was the basis for PP21 as an idea. And then PAC began to the membership organization. We began to reorganize ourselves, because until that time it was just a voluntary group of people, no members. We decided to get those people who gathered to become PAC members, and so it's a reinstituting, and we made our constitution. That is 83. But that was that statement was a sort of commitment. Once we said that we need to create real partnership to organize, to overcome the existing unequal relationship, we shouldn't just be satisfied by adopting that statement. And so what to do? It was that occasion, the friends from Malaysia, the Limteki came, I think, and others came. They criticized Japanese academics who would come and research and consume the materials and data and not return anything, kind of thing. And so all those sort of criticism was there. But how to overcome those? I need our Asian relationship to explain the mode of our relationship with other Asian countries. I think ACFOD is very important. Asian Cultural Forum on Development. It was a sort of creation of Christian Church and FAO. It has some story which was told very interestingly by Mushakoji-san. I'm not involved in that phase of preparation. It started as SODEPAC, Social Development and Peace thing. First discussed as part of the ecumenical program between the Catholic and WCC and FAO. My understanding is that FAO felt a little bit irritated by the failure of development project, Alliance of Progress in Americas, kind of thing. And so NGOs are very important in order to really promote development. Must be the kind of understanding maturing on the United Nations side. So FAO set up a campaign, Freedom from Hunger campaign. And as part of it, AD, Action for Development, was created. That was an organ to link with NGOs. Ecumenical movement and that move on the part of FAO somehow were coordinated by Surak Shivarak and Musha, still young activist Musha Koji, and perhaps other people were involved. And so there's an interesting story told by Musha Koji about that. I interviewed him. But anyway, ACFOD was created. And its official constitutional meeting was held in 1977 in Thailand. And young FAO official, Kamra Basin, was working for it. And she went about to locate, to identify interesting groups, that are action-oriented, radical, and critical. And she found us and invited Park to join. And it was how I, representing Park, went to the meeting in 1977 in Sawankaniwas. It's a sort of lawned area with the meeting place and so on. It was an interesting occasion. And 1976, you had the Tamasat Masaka, the coup d'etat in Thailand, and people, the students, the activists fled to the mountain. So the situation was still very, very tense. And when we started, 2 jeeps came in to the garden, into the garden, military jeeps, and a few officers came into the meeting hall, and without saying anything, one of them sit down by the side of the chairman, saying nothing, just looked at the publications which were displayed. And after, say, 10 minutes or so, they silently left. And we switched our conversation to harmless topics. So it was how ACFOD was constituted as an organization, and we adopted constitution, rules, and so on. ACFOD was an interesting organization because at that meeting we first met Abdurrahman Wahid, Bishop Rabayan, Ismit Haddad from Indonesia, and also person from Bangladesh, and others like Vikas Pai from India. Mostly young people, not very young, but mature young people. No? Wahid, I think, is younger than I. So it's a multi-religious group. That is the consideration from the beginning. And so at first stage of organization, there were people who emphasized religion. And so it was first named ACFOD, Asian Religious Cultural Forum. But people who promoted it were not happy about it. And of course, Kamala Basin wasn't happy about it. And so R was dropped and became ACFOD. And in the ensuing years, it gradually, or rapidly, changed into a sort of movement of Asia, vehicle of Asian activities, and including myself, good people. I mean, the people I mentioned, the Wahid included, contributed to making it a sort of movement-oriented regional group. But FAO was still there, and not only there, but also considered ACFOD to be part of its function. There was constantly internal struggle. First, the Asian Fishing People's Conference was planned, and it was done. And Park participated fully in it. Yamaga Junko, Park staff, engaged in that, and it was made part of Park's program. And in Ampo you can find minute studies on it. And Kerala, fishing people, and so on. Asian rural drama program also was one, and that introduced into Japan the community drama workshop program connected with PETA in the Philippines, and so on. And it also adopted an integrated action program which integrates workers, peasants, etc., etc. Finally, got independence from FAO. And Surak Shivarak became coordinator, and then Abda Sabu. In 1987, we PAC began to discuss how to implement the decisions and idea that was adopted at the 83 conference. We didn't like to forget what we agreed on. So how to implement? That was a very serious question. And so at the PAC conference, national meeting, we had, I think at that time we had the national meeting every year. So 87, we met. But before we meet, we drafted an idea, a proposal, which is not yet a proposal, but a sort of tentative idea about getting back the right to design the future of us. From the Japanese national point of view, we were in the so-called bubble economy, unlimited liquidity, and Japan was at the height of its capitalist development. So money was there, and speculation, and even ordinary people were talking about investment. And Japanese capital bought Rockefeller Tower. The Americans were so upset. The government was drawing very rosy picture of the future of Japan. And we, on the one hand, we were asking whether the kind of picture the government is drawing for us is what we want. And having experienced the previous decades' struggles, because activists are still there, a large number of them, were asking that question, whether this frenzy of economic boom and bright future, etc., is what we want. So it's a sort of an effort to draw a different picture for us, Japan, and also to fulfill the pledge we did years ago. So combining those two ideas, we drafted a tentative idea and circulated it to very many groups, movement groups, for reaction. I think that such a thing was the first tried. I never since then known such an idea of one group sending out tentative idea to. There's considerable reaction, but not overwhelming, but still there was reaction. Hanazaki Kohei at that time happened to come to the Tokyo office, and when we are sending out that tentative proposal, he picked it up and said, "Good, I'll take it." So it was the first real positive reaction from our friends. On the basis of that reaction, we put some proposal, two-year proposal to the general meeting of PAC in 87, and adopted the two-year program to prepare for PP21. Still a very rough idea, and sent out invitation to come together to prepare some event. Originally it was very, how can I say, very different ideas came. But people somehow was attracted to the idea itself. It's a sort of setting up a temporal village kind of thing in one place. It's like Mumbai WSF. The debate was is a hot one. Well, from Kyushu, from Fukuoka, a minibus load of people, 8 or 10 people came to the place, the meeting place, saying that we support this idea, so hold it in Fukuoka. But in Sapporo, Harazaki and others said that let's have indigenous peoples conference in Hokkaido as a main place. And it's like Olympic Games, where to hold. It's a competition. And so we finally agreed that let's have it everywhere where people like to have something. So it grew into a crazy idea of having, I think, 15 international meetings all over the country. Beginning with Hokkaido, the indigenous, and summing up in Minamata. Looking back, I think at that time the Japanese movement had still that potential to have that. And the plan sort of snowballed as time passed. So how to manage such a thing, and who are to hold such a thing? And of course it's not Park. Park called on other people, other groups to come together to form a committee, and the committee was formed. I went about, door to door. Seiko also went about, and so the committee was established. And Park is too small, and so we hired almost dilapidating old house near Park. It's a very dangerous wooden structure with how can I say, the third floor, that's really third floor. And if too many people are there, it sways. But I can't imagine now how such was possible. People really wanted to have something together. And different areas people volunteered to join. And Minamata, actually, we asked Minamata people to join and to have the final session there. And of course the victims group, they didn't know what is being proposed, and so they sent Hamamoto-san to Tokyo to check what kind of people are doing this. And I invited him to go to come to that shaky house. But many people are there and working very, very hard. So he watched it and perhaps trusted us. So he agreed to host the meeting. So by that time, actually, Lawrence Surrendra just resigned as coordinator of RINA. And he happened to be in Tokyo, just spending time. And he visited us, and Murai and me talked to him in a coffee shop in front of Park office. And Murai invited him to stay and join this program. And he somehow agreed. And he began to stay, and we secured a small apartment for him. And he was the international coordinator. And I was some coordinator, but not the Murai-san was the national coordinator. So that's how PP21 was organized, and the whole idea was to set some trans-border linkages and to present an idea to, how can I say, support such linkages. And we had many preparatory discussions at different levels. Women had their own committee, and they actually used to come to the most shaky floor. And I was afraid that it may fall. But like that, different groups had different sort of form of organization. And I went to Yamagata to talk to Kanno and others. So Okitama Farmers Association. And they are sort of young farmers who had no real power in the family, because the elders still managed everything. But they are, how can I say, exposed to the radical movement in the previous decade. And Kanno actually was a member of a party, and it's a small party, but was engaged in Sanrizuka struggle and so on. And there's a doctor who is a very well-known person, offering, for instance, in Yokohama, free service for foreign workers who have no security, I mean, no coverage of insurance, I mean, health insurance kind of thing. But he organized a study group, and those young farmers joined and discussed the world situation, theories, and so on. So there's enough of ground to develop further into larger movement. And also they are in solidarity with the Philippine movement. And so we are, at JCPC we had touch, and so I went there and proposed it. And they discussed very, very much and decided to take it. And it turned out to be positive to their sort of development, and they were empowered. They empowered themselves, no, by the young farmers who had no prestige, just getting together and inviting people from America, from Asia, and having an international conference and big mobilization. So that actually empowered, and so it was one of the most successful PP21 events in Japan in that year. So in various ways, PP21 projects in different areas were held and had lingering effects, like Freedom School in Hakata in Fukuoka. It's still called PP21 Freedom School. And people don't know what it means, but still it's so. And
who thought of the name PP21?
That was the topic people couldn't come to easily. What should this be called? At Park National Meeting, there's hot debate. I think it was Hotta who actually proposed People's Plan. But People's Plan is not Japanese. What it should be called in Japanese? And what mattered, and it still matters, how people should be called in Japanese. And it's a very difficult question and still not resolved. Jinmin, Renmin was a term used by the left for before the war and in the 40s. But that identifies with the Communist Party. So that's an abandoned term, someone said. Minshu, Minjun. So after Minshu was used, and so PP21 Minshu Gyoji, Minshu's event. And that is a very important question, how in Japanese we should call people.
How about 21?
For the 21st century, yes. So 21st century was an abstract. Well, actually, of course, we didn't anticipate what happened in the 21st century. So about the Minamata Declaration, we set up a drafting committee for the keynote and had long discussion, not once, twice, three times, staying in an inn, and we agreed on that basic idea of transborder participatory democracy, the idea of crossing borders, national, gender, whatever, to remake the existing mutual relationship, not just shaking hands on the basis of the existing structure. And the declaration of the new basic rights of participating in whatever decisions made about the people themselves, the people involved. I think that is the basic thing, no? The basic rights we declared. And I think it's right, and that's the most difficult thing. And so it's not, the idea is not the participation of the involved in the decision about them. It's in the framework of transborder people. I mean, they're to be combined idea as an idea. Of course, the body inflicted upon have the right to intervene in the decision about them. But it's not an idea of each different bodies doing this, but combined with the effort to link up through overcoming the unequal relationship existing between them. So that's the idea of alliance of hope. So the idea is if the alliance is solid enough and can jointly involve in the decision making, then that's a social change. That's a social change. But there should be processes, various processes. So that kind of idea came through discussion. We had so many discussion sessions.